You can't go around chucking milkshakes at people in the streets. You just can't do it. It just doesn't look good for you. It's not good look. If you have a problem with what someone has to say, then you should challenge their ideas and have a conversation. But just chucking milkshakes or eggs or whatever people like to do to politicians, and it's happened for decades. It's just not the thing to do, and I don't know why people keep doing it and sort of think it's like it doesn't look good. It makes you look very childish. It's a very childish, like, whack thing to do, basically. You know what I mean? If you just go, I chucked a milkshake at him, I chucked an egg at Jeremy Corbyn. Well, why did you do that? It's like, what are you trying to achieve with this? What is your end game by chucking food at people? Like, what is it? What does it achieve? Because it doesn't look good for you either. Because when you, and I've seen videos of them the fucking the UKIP dark horses of UKIP, whatever you want to call it, and a lot of the people that have been debating, well, the ones they put up, just like don't come across too good. They can't express their ideas properly. They contradict themselves. They just don't. They come across as silly, basically, and don't really have any valid points. And every time they get a point crushed, they just move on to like the usual spin of just attacking their character because of this or this. And when you can't debate, and when you have nothing really to say, and then you're chucking, and then there's other people chucking milkshakes, it does make, if you want to go against these people and challenge their ideas, it does make you look good. That makes you look like, just a little. There's always been a thing about people. You ever met someone where someone says, "Yo, be careful what you say, because if it goes over the top of their head, they get real angry." Like, that's what they come across as, like, as nutters. Nutters. And someone goes, "What's that supposed to mean?" Like, no, it's just a play on words. What do you mean? What do you mean? Fight me, I'll fight you, I'll kill you. Like, that's how they come across, like not good. But this thing, the milkshake spring, isn't political violence, it's political theatre. I don't really want to go too much into milkshakes being chucked. It's whatever. I think the best way to play it, if you chuck a milkshake at me, I'll just be like, what is that? Right. Well, tomorrow you best come back with some friends, and those friends best have guns, bitch, because it's on. That's the best you think you can do. You're gonna need a tank to stop me, motherfucker. But obviously, I would have thought Tommy Robbins would say something like that, because, come on, he's been jailed. He used to be in a football firm, didn't he? And like, generally there's probably loads of people who want him dead. I just expected some more mad talk from him, but I haven't even seen when it happened, enough like that. But I think the most interesting point is, because it's touched on in this article, and I've seen it on the social medias as well, is people, obviously, Farage is whining on about having a milkshake chucked at him, like, whatever. And then sort of the other side of the coin, his detractors or their detractors are just going, yeah, why are you moaning about having a milkshake thrown on you when and saying it's political violence when look at what you did to Joe Cox? It's like they're always bringing up the Joe Cox thing all the time now, and I think bringing up Joe Cox is almost as egregious as bringing up as how Britain First would always talk about Lee Rigby. Lee Rigby is a disgrace. It's like, can you not use these tragic murders as something to further your bullshit causes? Do you know what I'm saying? That goes to Britain First using Lee Rigby, and that goes out to far left loonies bringing up Joe Cox. And I say that because the guy that killed him, or killed her, sorry, the guy that killed her, it was a loon, an absolute loon, and he shouted Britain First. And even at the time, like I said, I'm no fan of Britain First. I was like, yeah, I don't know, that's kind of more of a statement. Like I said, it's a very clever name because it's like Britain First. It's like, we need to put Britain first. It's like, well, you can't use that term anymore because two lunatics have tarnished that phrase altogether. One looks like a potato, the other looks like a Transylvanian witch. But that's kind of the go-to thing they use, is that's the weapon of this so-called rise of far-right violence, is this one incident that happened a few years ago that is kind of like, yeah, it's a horrendous thing that happened, but the guy was clearly crazy. That's the best example but that's the go-to thing. They're going, what about Joe Cox? It's always about Joe Cox. It's like, it's getting bored of people just mentioning Joe Cox. It's like, just let her rest in peace. For goodness sake, and stop bringing her into anything when it's something to do with milkshakes, especially. It's like, come on, leave Joe Cox alone, man. The woman is dead. Okay, like, let's not, I don't even like mentioning that, because it's if you use, because this is what they're doing to this lot as well. I mean, obviously Tommy Robinson's got form with a lot of things, because he's Tommy Robinson and Farage, but like, especially with, with Sargon, the only thing they can sort of, the go-to thing that they're using against him, and I've seen it in these debates when they're like going at him, and then when they lose, they just go, yeah, well, you're a rape apologist, or whatever it is, or you made a funny joke about rape. It's like, right, that's the best thing, and that's the only thing they can use, and they use it in this as well. It's the only thing. It goes from, a sort of a silly comment about rape, about non-raping, about I wouldn't rape you, to now he's, a defender of rapists. Or something like that. It's mad. But that's what they do, and they use it with the Joe Cox thing. It's the go-to thing. It's just this one thing. So as soon as their arguments are dead, they're just using that, and it's like, if that's all you've got, against your opponents, it's like, you're gonna lose. You're gonna lose hard. Like, that's just not. There's not enough. There's really not enough. Because if you use Joe Cox as the example of rise of far right extremism, that's like if you just use one terror incident. If you a similar sort of murder by loons, which would be the murder of Lee Rigby, let's use that. If that was the only like Muslim related terrorist attack that we had in the UK, you would not have a valid standpoint. You would not have a valid argument going, oh, there's a massive rise in Muslim extremist violence. You'd be like, well, it's one incident by a couple of loons. Like, one of them schizophrenic, for goodness sake. It's not enough. But yet they seem to use that as enough. It's bizarre to me. It's like this threat is like, why does there always have to be a threat? As soon as terrorism died down in 2018, 2017 was like the peak of it. It was just going way too much. It's like, yo, we got a big problem here. Like, what is going to be done about it? And like I said, there's been higher levels of terrorism in the past, but in this modern age, this was looked like it was going out of control. And then 2018 just died. When ISIS died, it all died. And suddenly it was like, well, we need the people to be scared, and there needs to be an enemy, because we need to justify, MI5 need to justify their budget, and the police need to justify getting more money. So like, all right, far right extremism, that'll do. And suddenly, all of a sudden, this is the biggest threat going. Okay, well, hang on, I don't remember them bombing a Justin Bieber concert. That's just, I think the far right bomber a Justin Bieber concert. Muslim extremists bombed Ariana Grande. I think they bombed. I don't know why they bombed Justin Bieber. I don't know why the far right would bomb Justin Bieber, to be honest. But that's what I think. So just keep that in mind. Because here you go here. So down here, and when it was the turn of Carl Benjamin, who is referring to getting milkshaked, whose most notable life achievement has been to joke about the MP Jess Phillips getting raped. So it's just the go-to thing they'll do. That's the go-to thing. And again, where is it? Should put a marker pen on this. Yeah, here we are. And never forget that during the EU referendum campaign of 2016, the Labour MP Joe Cox was shot and stabbed to death on the Yorkshire Street by a man showing Britain First. So yeah. So the serried ranks, he says, of self-appointed grown-ups who tuck the milk protesters are setting Britain on a very slippery slope to major violence, get things precisely the wrong way round. Now there's plenty of examples of violence from far-left groups. In fact, more so, but it's just not. It just doesn't seem, because obviously they go under the banner of anti-fascism, it seems it seems sort of acceptable when like a lot of their targets have been dubious, and it's like all right, but then the only thing you got is Joe Cox. It's consistent. Now, in reference to throwing a milkshake not being an act of violence, it depends on who it's against, doesn't it? Now, this is a fact, all right? I'm 99% sure this is an actual fact. Tommy Robinson is an enemy of the establishment. That is a fact. You will see this consistently, not just with people who sort of represent what you could, if you want to determine as far right, whatever. Like, so that we'll use that. We'll just use that label for him for now, because being part of the English Defence League and blah 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 blah, and just the rhetoric. You could go, right. Well, that's definitely further than right of centre. A little, however you want to say it. Damned if you do, damned if you don't. Okay, now that's anti-establishment, and you also get that, and gangsters. There's a long history with gangsters getting less than fair. I know that seems a weird thing to say, but sentences. Look at the Krays. The Krays were kept inside until they died of cancer, pretty much. Like they, people that get sort of life sentences are usually out, a few years short. Then they kept the Krays inside for as long as possible because they were folklore figures. They were heroes to certain people, and the establishment can't have that kind of thing. If you're going against the state, if you're going against the status quo, the thing, what they want, that will happen. And there's countless examples in the UK of this sort of thing. I'm not just talking about, controversial political figures and gangsters, other kinds of people. There's all sorts of examples, but these are good ones to say. And so, if to bring charges against the person who threw the milkshake, it wouldn't be worth his time, because I don't think anything will be done about it. That's a fact. I mean, the police were actively shutting down Britain First, so anything they could get on them, they would use against them. So it doesn't matter whether you agree with Britain First or not. I think they are absolute loonbags, and just need to shut their mouths and think a little more before they run around Luton with a cross, shouting about religious extremism. It's just bizarre. But their right to say what they want is another debate altogether. But the fact is that it's a no-no. It's like, no, we're going to shut you down, and they did. So this is what you got to think about. So is throwing a milkshake. So the point is, milkshake being thrown at Tommy Robinson, nothing's going to happen about that. And if it does, well, then it does. But them saying it's not an act of violence, I said, well, it depends on who you ask. If you want to ask the police, if someone chucks a milkshake at me, I'm not really going to see that as an act of violence. I think my retaliation will be an act of violence. And therefore, I shouldn't get done for my retaliation. It's fair, isn't it? Don't you think? I think so. But Brexit supporter who assaulted Jeremy Corbyn is jailed for 28 days. Not a major sentence, 28 days, but still 28 days for chucking an egg. Because look, this is assaulted. This is in The Guardian again. This is assaulted. Okay? Chucking an egg. Now, a milkshake would be in a plastic thing. It's probably about this big, on average. Right? Bam, an egg, bam. Which is the more harsh hit to the face or hit to the body? I don't know. Is there ice in the milkshake? I mean, what, the density? I don't know, you have to ask a physicist about this. So a Brexit supporter who attacked Jeremy Corbyn with an egg during a mosque visit while yelling, "Respect the vote," has admitted an assault charge and been sentenced to 28 days. So if he admitted to the assault charge, he's probably up for maybe, there's a plea deal. He was up for a bit longer, I don't know. But there you go. So it depends on who you front. Like, for people to say, come out and say there's a double standard, are correct, because there is, and there's examples of it. And for those of you to say, what is violence and what isn't violence, well, ask the police, but then also think about who is it aimed at as well. These are things you need to know, because God help you if you want to become an enemy of the establishment yourself for whatever reason you might have. You might believe in the rights of polar bears, and the establishment decides that polar bears are vermin and want them executed. The same thing's going to happen to you, my son. But so there's just a couple of points about chucking milkshakes, and the acts of violence. Define an act of violence, But please stop mentioning Joe Cox all the time. It's getting very boring, and just bring up these one things. If you want a real argument, then you need to come with more books in your book bag. You ain't got enough books on your shelf, my son. There's just not enough. You haven't got enough books to be coming. It's silly of you. It's silly. Come on. Let's do better. Come on.